Hey everybody, I am here doing another video with my trusty steed Peppy. I got a question from Nicole about banging horses' tails off so that they're level at the bottom. And I had Peppy in here today. He was my like pony club introduction to dressage, and then grew into being one of my lesson horses. I've had him since he was 15, but he's retired now. And I had him in the barn the other day, and I realized his tail's getting a little long. I'll have to adjust the camera angle here. You can see when he's got his foot cocked, it's actually dragging the ground a little bit, and that's when I know I need to spend a little TLC time on him. So I'm going to this angle here so you can see the bottom of his tail, and we're going to talk through. There we go. Talk through that so you can see just the back end of beautiful Peppy. All right, let's get started. So yesterday I did my due diligence and I washed his tail really good. I used this Quicksilver whitening shampoo. Hold that a little bit closer so you can see that. That's what I really like for horses that have a white tail. He's a paint, so he has kind of a black and white mix. So the white is a little bit whiter. It's not quite like brilliantly let's go to a show white, but it's white. It's white enough. I mostly just wanted to get it clean. And then now that it's the next day, you don't have to wait till the next day, but that's how my schedule worked out. But it's dry now. I'm going to take my concentrated detangler from Cowboy Magic. I love this stuff. And I am just going to drizzle a little bit of this in his tail here. There's a lot of different detanglers you can use on tails. I think probably the two most popular that I've used are Shoshin, obviously. Can you step forward a little bit, buddy? And this Cowboy Magic one. So we've got that in there. I like the Cowboy Magic though because you don't have to use quite as much of it, especially if you have a really thick tail. Peppy doesn't have a particularly thick tail, thankfully, but you can just kind of drizzle a little bit. Like I'm just putting a little bit on here in the thicker parts, kind of here in the middle. And it already feels pretty nice from being washed. And then you can just kind of massage this in so it feels kind of soft and silky. But Nicole's emphasis was on making sure that it was level. The tail was level when you banged it off at the bottom. So the best way I know of to make sure that it's level is first and foremost to comb it out. You know, comb your tail out really thoroughly, use some detangler. And that's what I'm going to do. I've got my detangler in. I'm going to take my little brush here and start at the bottom and work my way up and comb this tail out. The Cowboy Magic gives it such a nice feel. It's not very difficult to run a comb through it at this point, which is nice because then you don't damage the thickness of your tail, jeopardize that by breaking off or pulling out any hairs. If you have, washed it, done some conditioner, and then you put a detangler in it, then your comb can just cut right through it nice and smooth like that, just like silk. If you get some areas in the middle here where it's kind of roped up a little bit, they tend to get that little twist in it, and you can kind of take your fingers and straighten a few of them out, and then it's a little easier to run your comb through it there. Get a better grip here. So I'm about halfway up now, and I usually kind of get about halfway up from where I can kind of hold it against my leg here and comb through it. Once I get up to there, then I'll just let it hang and just kind of hold part of it away and do a few hairs at a time with the comb until, kind of hold it out to the side. I know I'm combing it all the way up to where the tail is growing out of his dock right here. So I know I've got that completely detangled all the way up to the source. Oh, Peppy, your tail is so beautiful. And then just keep letting some more hair kind of add in there as we go. And then check the other side here, make sure it's nice and silky and smooth. Fluff the top here a little bit. So now, as much as possible, we know we've got all the hairs combed out nice and smooth. They're laying down flat. They're not kind of tangled up or shortened in any way by being knotted or kind of twirled into those little ropes that you can get kind of deeper in the middle by their dock underneath here. This is much more difficult to do on thick-tailed horses. I had a Friesian in training for a while, and getting her tail combed out, I really appreciated the Cowboy Magic because it's a concentrate, so you don't have to use as much of it to get a tail really nicely combed out, and be able to either just do a nice photo shoot or go to a show or feel like you've got it ready to bang it off here a bit. Okay. So you can see here it's falling just below, like right about just above his heels here at the bottom, kind of right about here. Let me see if I can find a, I can zoom this in for you guys. Okay, we'll move it to right here. Yeah, that works. Kind of an odd angle, but you can at least see the bottom of his tail really good here and how it comes down almost touching the ground right here. If he lifts it at all like that, then it raises it up to just above his heel, but if it's completely relaxed, it's almost to the ground. So I'm going to grab my scissors here and take a look at where we want to cut it. I have been taught back from my years as a working student with Cindy Sidnor, she always recommended that you bang it off right about the fetlocks here, so that when they're tracking and working, the horses tend to lift their tail and kind of have a drape to it, and that puts it at kind of that mid cannon bone area there. But if you, I'm not really sure what the criteria is for that, but I have found over the years, I can't stop touching it, it feels so wonderful now. I have found over the years that banging it off right at the fetlock, or kind of where their little ergot grows right there, is really nice for a couple of reasons. The predominant reason I find that that's really nice is it keeps it from getting dirty. You know, if it's much lower than that, when I washed his tail yesterday, and you can see a little bit here, it's still kind of stained a more of a yellow color here, at definitely down here at the bottom, because it's just more prone to get into the dirt as they're walking around. Just move this angle here again since he shifted. There we go. So that's one of the reasons why I find that I like to have it banged off right about there, because it just kind of keeps it up out of the dirt as they're moving around their fields. All right, buddy, can you relax your tail a little bit? So I'm not really sure how technical you might be expecting this to be as far as how to trim it off level, but once I make sure that I've got it all combed out, I just kind of stroke it down a little bit a couple times like this until I've got it pulled down, and you can kind of see where the bottom is right here. Take it down right to his ergot right here, and then I just turn it sideways like this, kind of out towards myself where I can see it, and then I'm gonna just cut it straight across. And I'll get a little bit of a flare to the far corner, so then I'll turn it and go the other way back across. So I kind of trim this way, so this corner's nice and clean, and then I'll trim the other way across so that corner's nice and clean. So you get kind of a good edge there. And then I let it go and see what it looks like. And that looks pretty good, honestly. What do you think? Pretty level across the bottom there. If you feel like it's not, you could certainly go back and do it again. I'm not particularly a perfectionist about this, especially since he's not going to a show or anything. This is just him hanging out in the pasture, and I just want the bottom half of his tail here to kind of be up out of the ground. But that's a pretty nice look. If you have a Friesian or a horse that has a thicker tail like that, and you get it pulled down, and it's, you know, it's a handful, it's a big old wad of hair, what you might have to do is pull it down like that, and when you go to trim it, trim half of it. Just keep your grip on it I'm just going to trim a couple of these hairs that, there we go. But trim half of it and then trim it again and then see how it looks. And you might have to do that 1 or 2 times. Like I'm running my fingers through his hair here, and then I pulled it, you know, I started at his dot here and pulled it straight down, and I looked and there were a couple of little like straggler hairs, like long hairs just kind of sticking out. Like there's like 2 right here. It's very difficult to see, I think, but there's a couple of hairs. That one's just a loose hair that's fallen out. As, is this one attached? That one is attached. So you may have to, that's another thing you can do, is just kind of run your fingers through it or run your comb through it and then just check it a couple of times and catch any stragglers like that that might not have gotten trimmed the first time through. There we go. Nice and soft. Pull it down. And you can even just kind of look at it from the bottom here if that's easier for you, and just kind of trim it across this way. Turn it, make sure you get that edge really nicely. But that's usually how I do it. His tail is a nice thickness because it's not, it highlights when he's had it banged off, right? You can tell it's got a clean edge on the bottom here because it's been trimmed, which is a nice look, but it's not super thick. It's not like a Friesian's tail or some of the others, like maybe a Gypsy Vanner or the others that have a propensity to grow a lot of hair, that you'd have to kind of work at trimming that a couple times across to make sure you got that really good. Anyway, hope that's helpful. That's how I will trim my horse's tails and get a nice clean edge across the bottom here. Thank you so much for giving your question in a comment. If you have a question about anything else and you would like to see a video on it, let us know and we'll give you a video. Say goodbye, Peppy. Alright, banging your horse's tail can and should be easy. Thanks for watching.